So the first thing that you guys can see here is an image, and it's an image of a city in Africa, right at the tip of Africa. So the most southern tip of Africa is Cape Agulhas, but Cape Town is the second most southern tip in Africa. And I always wonder when we look at an image like this, what do we see? We see mountains, skies, a stadium, some small yachts. But really, when you dig a bit deeper, you got to ask yourself deeper questions about what do we really see? And what we start to see is a land of opportunity. And that land of opportunity comes from what we have in store in Africa. Africa is the most resource-rich continent on the planet. It's got a vibrant population, and it's got a sort of myriad of opportunities that are waiting for us as Africans and collaborating with people across the globe to seize and to actually build on. So, for example, the sunlight, an abundance of solar power. This is mainly across the entire continent. There are not really any parts of the continent where you don't have an abundance of sunshine. So how do we attract investment and develop the technology and get government buy-in? These are all the questions that I think Paul also spoke to, is being able to collaborate, because you may have an idea to create solar power, but you need to collaborate with people to develop that technology, to get government buy-in and to attract investment. There was also another company that we are dealing with that created a sort of automatic drones that would go pick up golf balls instead of people endangering their lives and being sent out onto the golf course to pick up balls that are being hit across the golf course and the driving range. So great idea. And the question is, how can this be scaled globally? Because a lot of the times what we've seen, and through my history or background of working in California, in San Francisco and Silicon Valley, there's a very big global mindset in the States, at least in California, from my experience. Coming back to South Africa and also engaging with other countries across Africa, you start to notice that the mindset is not as global. We're starting to see more global mindsets in Nigeria, Egypt, and perhaps that's because Nigeria and Egypt are, Egypt's very close to the Middle East and not so far from Europe. And Nigeria is just across from Europe as well. So we're starting to see that trend of African startups looking for a global scale and how to scale their companies globally. And that's something that I think as you guys join in and as you guys listen in on the talks and the different panel discussions, if you have any startups which I've seen through the chat groups that you guys are thinking of, always think globally and how to structure your business globally, how you can scale your business globally. The whole idea of ownership as well amongst Gen Zs is changing dramatically. Gen Zs don't see ownership of things as something that is something that they want to aspire to. They rather see this element of leasing or experiential types of activities. So, someone may buy a yacht, but that yacht will stand stagnant for at least 340 days out of 365 days in a year. So why would someone want to buy a small yacht or a boat? Is there the potential to create a company that leases out and actually democratizes the experience of going onto a boat or a yacht? And how does that affect the concepts of ownership and risk? How does that affect insurance industries? And how does it affect banking industries as well, that often give individuals loans for that type of asset? Payment systems, we've seen a huge upsurge over the past 5 years in fintech across the African continent, particularly in Nigeria, Kenya, and South Africa. And looking at that and asking yourself, what can you do to get the unbanked banked? And how can you collaborate with, sort of established institutions, established banks, international payment service providers to actually get your market onto the ground, to get an MVP out, and to actually start getting unbanked communities and people into the fold. And I think that's critical and very important as we start to see a rise in the urbanization of African populations and a decrease in the rural populations in Africa. And then the last one is, a multitude of car parks in South Africa and across Africa, where cars stand for an entire day. Another company that approached us basically is looking to create a business where these cars, instead of standing stagnant for the whole day, are actually leased out to people who need to use them during the day, and then parked back where they need to be parked for whoever's at the office to drive their car home in the afternoon. And I think that the advent of the gig economy like Uber, Bolt, and other car share ride systems and car hailing systems is allowing for that optionality of, do I want to drive my car? Can I lease my car? Can I get another form of income for myself to help pay off the car? These are all questions that we need to ask ourselves, and how can we leverage that? But then to take it further is not just to create solutions that we've seen and replicate them across Africa, is also to think a step further, is how do we integrate as Africans into the fourth industrial revolution? How do we create solutions that play into technology, artificial intelligence, the EV model, the electric vehicle model? How do we start to look at that, and how do we look to bridge the divide between those that are mobile and those that aren't? Because the large populations in Africa still don't have access to motor vehicles. Large populations still use public transport. How can we get that to be more efficient? And then just quickly, because I am sort of over time, is just to give you guys a sense of what's happening across the continent. And we've seen, in 2020, an upsurge in venture capital investment into Africa. And in 2021, we're still waiting for those numbers to trickle in at the close of this year. But we've seen huge deals, Flutterwave, Paystack, Momo just got a $15 million Series A fund. There's another company called Helium Health that just got a $10 million Series A funding round. So there's a lot of funding that's coming into Africa from a venture capital perspective. And that's sort of generating and spurring a lot of growth across the continent. But the question is, how do you guys then position yourselves to have your companies or your startups get investment? And there are going to be some talks today about innovation and entrepreneurship, and throughout the summit, we're also going to be talking about impact investment as well. And then the other thing is that we still see 65%, so 42% of North America and 23% in Europe. So 65% total of investment is coming in to Africa from Europe and the States. But getting that insight and that connection is important. And then just to sort of end off, you got to also understand the African bulge and the population growth that we're going to see in Africa in the next 50 years. The other thing I spoke about is the radical sort of urbanization of developing countries and the decrease of rural populations in developing countries. The other important aspect is the African continental free trade area. How do we take advantage of that? How do you guys take advantage of that? That's going to allow for the free movement of goods and services and products across the African continent. And then the last thing is, don't be afraid to fail. This is a space where you guys are going to exchange ideas, and if you have any ideas, go for it, take it on. Question the conduct of your leaders. There's a question about politics entering the fray, but join the dots. And if you're not happy with what you're seeing from your leaders, question them. Use your companies as a soundboard or as a voice to question leaders across Africa. Collaborate, which is something that Paul mentioned as well, but collaborate with your fellow Africans and with people across the globe. And if we work together, we can make Africa a thriving and prosperous continent. And I think everybody's looking to that, this African Renaissance, and use a role as an entrepreneur to shape Africa's future into a more prosperous one. That's what I hope that all delegates that are part of this summit will do. It's my hope that you guys will be inspired by this summit and will want to make a difference positively across the African continent.